Alright, I'm gonna do a bit of therapy roleplay today because a while back my brother made a statement about therapists which kind of stuck with me a little bit, and he basically said something along the lines of how therapists' main role is to make you keep talking, which makes a lot more sense when he explained it. And he said, like, therapists all ask like the same question to like every patient, right? There's like not that much of a difference between them. They all ask the same types of questions, and everyone knows what types of questions I'm talking about. It's like the patient talks for a little bit and like blah blah blah, and like the therapist is like, huh, why do you think that? And then the patient talks a little bit, blah 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 blah, and then the therapist is like, what do you mean by that? And then and it's like, huh, and how did that make you feel? And you know, it's the same types of questions, especially if you watch people like Dr. K, who is subjectively the greatest therapist type person of all time. He deals with like mental health issues with like streamers and like influencers and crap, which you know are weirder than the average person. But basically, if you watch like a few of those where he like interviews people like that and like kind of diagnoses them a little bit, he asked those exact same types of questions, and I'm assuming, you know, therapists probably did the same thing. And like, before I continue, can I just say, therapists, therapy dogs, and like, you know, any of that type of stuff, without a doubt sounds way better than like antidepressants, because I hate to be the guy that says antidepressants sound kind of stupid, but antidepressants definitely sound kind of stupid. And like, I'm not a scientist, so like I don't have any concrete claims about that, but today I'm here to answer one question through unofficial and like subjective means, which is, what do therapists even do, right? I guess before I go any further, I should explain that I'm not a doctor or a psychiatrist or any of that crap, so anything I say isn't necessarily right, nor do I think anything anyone says is necessarily right, because when it comes to mental type, you know, topics, no one's really right? Like, it's such a weird topic that there's no like concrete answers to these types of questions. And if anything, I'd say everybody's kind of right, because, you know, it's up to your interpretation. Everyone has their own answer. No one's necessarily wrong unless you say something really far off, right? But yeah, this is my own definition. It's not backed up by like, you know, the officials. But my definition consists of the terms conscious and unconscious thoughts, which I hope are self-explanatory, but basically conscious thoughts are, you know, the concrete, literal thoughts that you have that, you know, you can put a finger on it. It exists, and, you know, they're active thoughts. But unconscious thoughts are the more unactive, shady, you know, abstract background thoughts that are in the back of your mind. You never thought them like physically, but they were there, right? They're unconscious. It's your subconscious at work. So it's not that complicating, in my opinion. A therapist's goal should be to take your unconscious thoughts and make them as conscious as possible, which basically means shining a light in the back corners of your brain where all the unconscious thoughts lie, and exposing what they are and how exactly they affect you, right? So when they ask those questions, like the, oh, why do you think that? What do you mean by that? How is that so? All these questions are there to find these conscious thoughts and then dig deeper until you find the unconscious thoughts that support these conscious thoughts, and you're just making these unconscious thoughts, you know, brought to the surface. You're exposing them. You're getting to understand yourself better. And that's really all it is, right? Your unconscious thoughts are always affecting you in some way, in a way that you can't really fully understand. So you need to, you know, dig deeper, find the unconscious thoughts, and figure out how exactly they affect you. I feel like a lot of times people come across those like bad emotions and stuff, you know, like stress, anxiety, sadness, all that good stuff. They don't really address it, they just ignore it. And, you know, if they don't address it, it always comes back, right? It's like if you find some random wild animal and then you provoke it and it starts chasing you, you start running, you're not getting away from it. It's a wild animal. So you know, you kind of have to address it at some point, because running will never actually solve anything just because it's always there the entire time. This is a horrible analogy, but it gets the point across, right? You kind of have to realize at some point that you got to understand the core of your issue, which is basically your unconscious thoughts, and that's where the therapy comes in, right? That's when you ask those questions, you know, how is that so? What do you mean? Like, why do you feel that way? You know, you can ask yourself those questions instead of paying for a therapist. You know, be your own therapist, ask those questions, speed run through those questions, because you can do a way faster to yourself. And then you're basically just surfacing every little thing to understand along the way until you get the big picture of, you know, whatever garbage that you're feeling, right? Surfacing every little unconscious thought until you understand everything. understand the whole idea. And you can't lie along the way, right? Like, you have to always be honest. Like, if I died in a video game, I could say, like, it was the lag, man. The lag got me. I would have won if it wasn't for the lag. Or I could just say, like, yeah, I suck at the game. You know what I mean? Right? You gotta be honest with yourself. Sometimes people are really good at gaslighting themselves into thinking, like something that's just completely not true and like genuinely believing it. Like, I feel like there's some scenarios out there where people are like, oh yeah, it's good to like you know, lie to yourself for the confidence benefits or some crap or something, like benefit of the doubt. I don't want to address those specific situations. I just think most cases lying to yourself is probably not the best play. So, you know, in this type of situation especially, you know, if you're trying to therapize, self-diagnose yourself with these type of therapy questions, be honest, right? You know, like, don't gaslight yourself into thinking something that's probably completely wrong. You gotta get to the core of the issue by taking the whole genuine, sincere, honest route. So don't lie along the way. Answer these questions to yourself honestly, and eventually you're not going to find no golden answer. You're not going to answer these questions when you're along this therapy process and be like, oh my god, I found the solution, I get everything and everything's so. No, like, you're literally understanding things that you already knew, like, just unconsciously. You're taking unconscious thoughts, making them conscious, and then just understanding it, right? Because the more you understand it, the more you kind of get to accept it more. You're not fearing some random thing that has no like face. You're understanding, visualizing it, and then you're like, oh, that's what it is, right? Eventually, you find the core of the issue, cores of the issue, depending on how extensive the issue may be, and you kind of just have to accept it, which, again, depending on the scale of the issue, may be more or less difficult, but eventually, as you're digging up these little issues and surfacing every little thought in the back of your mind, you're going to accept it naturally, because the more you just understand everything that's happening, the more you're just like getting used to it, right? When you're digging up unconscious thoughts, you're literally just saying, oh, yep, that. You're thinking like, oh, why did I think that? Because of this. Boom. Surfaced. You understand it, right? You're not even, there shouldn't be any like big denial or like crap going on there, I don't think, unless given some certain scenario. But most of the time you're just like finding these unconscious thoughts and like surfacing it, understanding it, and accepting it. That's the last step, really. You gotta get more comfortable. If it's a really bad situation, you need to get comfortable with it, but most of the time you just need to accept, you know, these little things, these little small issues in the back of your mind. Get the big picture of like why you're stressed, anxious, sad, whatever the crap, and then, you know, accept the big picture. And, you know, after accept it, obviously move on with your day and don't look back, because it's all garbage and you never want to remember that crap. And it's hard to explain this in a way that's like really concrete, because it's mental crap is always really broad and generic, because everyone has their own situation. It could range, it has such a big range of issues, so you can't really explain it without being extremely broad and generalizing a lot of things. But basically, I don't think you can go wrong with the therapy questions, right? Asking yourself these questions, being your own therapist, saving money, because I'm sure therapists cost lots of money. So, you know, if you're ever in those like garbage mind situations, dealing with any of that crap, stress, anxiety, sadness, all of that negative garbage, be your own therapist. Ask the questions, save some money, and don't necessarily listen to anything I just said, because I'm not a doctor.